Anyone who knows me knows I love music, and I take it pretty serious. I built this speaker you see here and a matching one on the other side. There's a couple subwoofers down here you can just see the tops of. With the help of a couple friends, I built those. I arranged my office so that my chair is in the prime listening spot, right in the middle of those, and I end a lot of days just listening to music. Again, I really like it, and I think God's people have always liked music and realized, and God realizes how important it is. That's why an entire book of the Bible is the hymn book of the Old Testament. I'm talking about the book of Psalms. In one sense, you could consider it the original Christian music channel. Well, I hope you like this video over a psalm, and if so, then if you do me a favor and click the thumbs up, leave a comment, I always love that, and or share it on a social media site like Facebook, that would be a huge help. Thanks a lot. Do you have a Fitbit or something like that that counts your steps during the day? I see posts by people and they'll say, I got so many steps in by lunch or something like that. And, I remember when the Pokemon game where people were going outside to find things, you'd get in the middle of it. I don't even know how it worked. But one thing people were saying, well, at least it's getting others, off their couches out and doing something physical, getting some steps. There's definitely value to being physically active. The same thing is true spiritually. There's some things that we need to do as part of our relationship with God. Not to earn His favor, but just that's what it is, what that relationship entails. And very often, I think, if you ask people, what's our part? The first thing that comes to mind, I think, because how we've been conditioned and what our focus is, well, I obey God. I do this, don't do that. Those things are important, but certainly not all that there is. And I noticed this as I was looking through Psalm 63. And actually, to be honest, it wasn't me that noticed it. I was teaching through this in Sunday school, and someone pointed out as I was looking for at the end, I always say, what are the big picture? What's the lesson you start to get? Draw it all together. And she made the observation that there's so many words here that are action words. Things that the psalmist was doing, encouraging others to do, things that we need to do. Look at this, Psalm 63. I'm just going to go through and comment on these action words. Oh God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. Right there at the beginning, and it sets the tone for everything, is seeking God. And of course, it's not like God is hiding, but just that active nature of God. I want to know you. I want to know who you are, what you're like, my life. That really should encompass all of these. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you. I don't know if those are so much things we actively do or the result, but definitely if they're the result of us seeking God. They're the result of us making God a priority in our life so that our soul thirsts for Him and faints for Him as in a dry and weary land where there is no water. Is that how much I thirst for God? To the point that I faint if I'm feeling faint, if I don't have Him as much. And again, that's up to me what I do if I'm not seeking Him. So all of that. Verse 2, so I have looked upon you in the sanctuary. Well, that right there means He had to go to the sanctuary. It doesn't mean that God's the only place He can be found is in the sanctuary, or and certainly our church is not exactly the same. It doesn't mean that, but it does mean I've gone to be in as part of this worship, and I've looked upon you, beholding your power and glory. And that idea of beholding means more than just glancing at, stopping to think about, beholding God's power. Just how much power He has. I talk about God's power being accompanied by His knowledge of His awareness of everything that's going on, His wisdom of what's best and how to bring it about, and His power to do it. The more I focus on that, the more confidence it gives me. God can handle any situation I'm in. I behold His power and glory. Because your steadfast love is better than life. And I tell you, when you see God's power, you often see His love go hand in hand. And there's those two things. God's in control and He loves me. My lips will praise you. Over and over and over in the Psalms is this idea of praising God. And not just some quiet, all right, praise you, God. And not even just in my head, actively praising God. Specifically stating, God, this is why you're awesome. This is why you're wonderful. This is who you are. That's what worship is, declaring God's worth. Verse 4, so I will bless you as long as I live. What's it mean to bless God? Well, to wish the best upon God, which in this case would be, God is God, but to wish that His will is done. That's what He wants to see done. In your name, I will lift up my hands. I tell you, I was raised, and you didn't do a lot of that. Even this makes me a little nervous. But some active display of that praise of just who you are, God. I do it real well in the videos here. My hands are all over the place, aren't they? My soul will be satisfied as with fat and rich food. Well, think about that. That's another one. It might be a result, but if it is, it's because of my focus in God that I'm satisfied with Him. That right there, I could do a whole lesson on. I'm not even sure if I have or have one planned out. This idea of being satisfied with God instead of God and something else. My mouth will praise you with joyful lips. There's that idea again. When I remember you upon my bed. That's the idea at night. Just stop. Remember what God's done throughout the day and meditate on you in the watches of the night. Meditate. That's to think about, to reflect on. The key word that I think is so important. What do I get from this? I see what God has done. I see what's happening in my life. What's the lesson? What should I learn? For you have been my help, verse 7. And in the shadow of your wings, I will sing for joy. There's that idea again. Something active. I'll raise my hand. You aren't going to catch me singing on this. You would not come back. But on my own, let me tell you, I can sing. And it doesn't even have to be a Christian song, quote unquote, by a Christian art. Got to sing a worship song. Certainly some songs that would be excluded, but just singing to God, whatever the song is that, is okay, acceptable to sing, because life is just that way. What do you do when you're feeling good? You sing. And I realize God's the reason that for life the way it is. My soul clings to you. There's one right there. Oh, when I'm not feeling like singing, I need to be clinging to God. If things are difficult, and realize, God, you're the only one who's going to get me through this. You're the only one who's going to help me while I'm in this. I'm clinging to you. Because your right hand upholds me. Then he talks about, but those who seek to destroy my life shall go down to the depths of the earth. They shall be given over to the power of the sword. They shall be a portion for the jackals, the people who were opposed to him. He goes back, but the king shall rejoice in God. There's the idea of something active again, that rejoicing, praising. All who swear by him shall exalt. Exalt God, who He is. Just to stop and think. We know God's amazing. We know His grace is amazing. We've got the song, but how often do we just stop and list it off? Praise Him, exalt Him. For the mouths of liars will be stopped. They need to be stopped. Ours shouldn't be. We should be praising God. We should be doing all of these things. Have you ever looked at someone else's relationship with God and maybe, I wish I had a relationship like that. I tell you, one of the keys, I think if you sit down and ask them, how do you get that relationship? How do you have it? I think you're going to hear this kind of active nature of that relationship. I do these things, again, not to earn God's favor, but because it's more than just sitting back and saying, yeah, I'm a Christian, I've been forgiven, I'm going to heaven, God's great. All these things in a real active, thoughtful, intentional way.